Welcome, everyone. My name is Cerridwen, and it is a total privilege to be broadcasting from the lands of the Kanik tribe of the Dena'ina peoples. I like to start my classes acknowledging all of the people who came before us, our ancestors, and really the ancestors of our planet, of each and every one of you. So just taking a moment to think of all of our loved ones who have come before and are still with us on this earth, and how we work together to create a better world through our actions. I'd like to honor my ancestors from Tununic, the Kamchatka Peninsula and Finland, and also my ancestors from Oregon and Kerry County, Ireland. And I am so honored to be residing in this beautiful land that we call Alaska, and all the resilient peoples that live here. It's one of the things that after my travels out, I had to come back and be with all of these wonderful like-minded spirits here in Alaska. So thank you so much for having me, and Koyana, thank you. Today's class I'm really excited about. It's part 2 for our edible flowers, but I've kept all of the flowers and the greens in their whole form so that I can show you the process of as I cut it. So I've been heating up my cast iron because a nice hot skillet is the key to crispy potatoes. And I feel like the crispy potatoes in this dish are actually the best offset to a lot of the bitter herbs that we're going to add, bitter wild plants, but then some floral sweet wild plants in the dandelion petals and fireweed petals. So a couple of these plants, if you have come to the previous Lunch and Learns, we have talked about. So I won't focus as much on that, but feel free to ask questions. I love questions. The more questions, the better. And actually, today's recipe, we're going to be doing a skillet, egg, and potato dish with wild greens and these edible flowers. So to start, one of our recapping plants is chickweed. So chickweed is one of my favorites. It's very sweet, and this will be just the perfect amount, my handful for the potatoes. So right now, chickweed is in bloom. So it is a green, but it is also a flower. I've got about 5 blooms on my on my chickweed plant outside. So I thought I'd grab 3 of them to show you. And so I'm just gonna place the chickweed there on the cutting board. This, you might recognize, it grows all over Alaska. It is called chamomile, but it's commonly referred to as pineapple weed. When I was a little kid, we used to see all of these beautiful green heads, and they don't really flower. So you can see these really feathery leaves that are almost needle-like, but they are not needles, they are leaves. And the flower head does not grow petals. Instead, they grow these tiny green, softer sepals at the base. And so really what we used to do is we just pick off one of these flowers and either rub it in our hands and make ourselves smell nice. You can eat it, smell it. It's like great aromatherapy. Chamomile is used as a nervine. So that's why it's commonly placed in sleepy time blends or relaxation blends, often used for anxiety as well. So it is classified under a sedative, but it's a very, very mild sedative. So it's safe to give to children. And these are just the medicinal properties of wild chamomile. Honestly, the entire plant from top to bottom, all of these beautiful little leaves. They're all really tender. And so I'll actually strip the leaves and add those into what we're making today as well. So that is chamomile. And then last week's star of the show was dandelion flowers. And last week, what we did for our sweet recipe was I actually broke all of the petals, all of the yellow petals away from the base, also known as the sepal, that green part. And I do that because the green sepal part, the base of the flower, can be more bitter. So with this savory dish, we actually want to invite bitters in, ideally in Ayurvedic cooking, which I also work as an Ayurvedic practitioner. We talk about balancing our tastes. So ideally, when we make a meal, we would have all of the tastes. So bitter, a little sour, a little sweet, a little salty, and then that umami flavor, right? That we just started talking about in the culinary world, in a large scale. So this, I will keep all of the sepals on the dandelion and use it because that has medicine in it too. Anything green is full of chlorophyll, helps our blood. Chlorophyll is the blood of the plants. So when we have high amounts of chlorophyll, we're not only getting the minerals and the nutrients from that, but we are also getting blood support. So all of those minerals supporting healthy blood production, red blood cell turnover. So we will move on. I got some fresh chives from my garden. These are just kind of the generic, I'm not sure what variety they are, but they're just kind of the biggest batch of chives that I usually see in gardens in Alaska. And they come with these, in the allium family, which is the onion family, they have these beautiful flowers. So you might be noticing that in your chives. And these purple flowers are also edible, but the stem is woody. And so I separate those out and then just top off. And actually, I'm going to garnish with some of these dainty little chive flowers. So that'll be something I add on top with the chives. Next up is some herbs. So in my garden, I had some thyme that miraculously survived from last winter, and it's starting to flower. So in keeping with the flower theme, I'm going to strip all the flowers off and add that to our dish. And then yarrow is everywhere in Alaska as well. And I just wanted to highlight this one. It's one of my favorite smelling flowers in Alaska. It is wonderfully aromatic. And with that, it's very pungent in food. So use it sparingly as a spice. And more commonly, it would be used in a tea or tincture or some other herbal preparation to store it for long periods of time. So I like to add it just little bits into my savory dishes, and it just mixes up the taste. It's unique, and it's almost a little, it's very earthy. So it's got that earthy bitterness. I'm going to top off the finished product with some beautiful fireweed flowers that just started blooming in my yard here in Knik. And next, I will show you the base, which are these Alaskan russet potatoes. I have sliced them fairly thin, not terribly thin. You can actually see, you know, maybe as wide as the tip of my finger. And I soaked them in cold water, I found that that makes the crispiest, most delicious potatoes. And I do it at least a half hour, but sometimes I'll let it go longer. So I've just lightly seasoned it with paprika because I really love the color and it adds a little bit of that barbecue flavor. So let's get started. I'm going to preheat my pan, put it back on. It got pretty hot. I've added just a touch of coconut oil. So choose an oil of your choice. You can use butter if that's accessible and easy for you to use. I don't recommend olive oil. It has a taste when it's heated to a certain temperature that I don't find pleasant, and I feel like it overpowers the food. So avocado oil is nice. I use coconut oil, which I also really like. And even depending on the variety you get, some has no coconut taste. So depending on how refined it is. And then we've got 4 eggs, and that's what we're going to top it all off with. Make sure that's nice and hot. I'm going to flick a little water on it and make sure. Oh, needs just a touch longer. When I flick the water on it, what I'd like is to see it instantly dance across the oil and disappear and evaporate. And then you know that the pan is evenly heated. I'm gonna start cutting up some of these greens. I have the chicory here. Yep, it sounds like the skillet is ready. And my oil is smoking, so I gotta start adding stuff. And yeah, just start small, especially with these wild plants. They tend to be more bitter. Oh, good. I'm coating my oil evenly. And now I'm going to lay down on the outer edge, since the center is the hottest. I'm just going to grit out all these potatoes. And I like to hear that sizzle when I place it on the pan. And that's going to form a crust so that it won't stick to the pan, hopefully, right? And I'm actually making a rather large skillet. I know in the recipe, I wrote 2 eggs or however many guests you have. So sometimes I still have the same amount of potatoes. I'll just add more eggs on top. And it's almost like a potato crust in a sense. So evenly space all that out. All right, that looks pretty good. Maybe I can fit these last 2. Because I want the bottom as covered as possible with no overlap on the potatoes so they cook evenly. And I think that's perfect. I did just 1 too many. That'll be for the next batch. So I'm gonna let this cook, turn the temp down a little, and I'm gonna cover it with a crack so some of the steam can escape. And then I'm gonna prep more of my veggies. So we've got, I wanna talk about these beautiful pineapple weeds. And all of the flowers are gonna be the sweetest part. So, well, I'm just gonna take a look and see how much, like the ratio of flower to stem. And about right there, about a little less than halfway, those are the smallest flowers. So I'm actually gonna cut off everything below the smallest flowers, and I'm gonna set aside to add to a salad later. So no matter what you harvest, you can still recycle. So I'm going to start mincing my pineapple weed, and it smells so good. And it's great because those leaves are so fine, it easily incorporates into a nice fine herb. So I've got that off to the side. So I like to layer the greens in my pan according to how long they take to cook. So chickweed doesn't take long at all, and neither does chive, and actually fresh chive is one of my favorites. So that's last. The chamomile takes a little bit longer to really soften and incorporate. And then here is my handful of dandelion. So because I'm leaving the sepal on and that's pretty solid, I'm going to chop that up fine as well. Then whenever, especially when feeding people plants they've never had before or didn't think that they could have, and especially plants that a lot of people consider weeds, and so they might have a negative connotation about that. It's nice to dice up whatever herbs you're putting in your food so that it incorporates really well, and the other tastes add to the taste of the plant, as opposed to you have a bite of a yummy potato and then you have just one single giant head of dandelion, which could be bitter and offset, especially people who are new to the taste. So I'm going to check the center one first. Oh, and it looks perfect. So starting in the middle. So this is about perfect, perfectly browned. Little bit of black is fine because it'll soften once we steam it and use the moisture from the eggs and the plants to steam the eggs. Not all might be perfect, especially if the sizes are a little bit different. But I hand flip them because, and although I know it's dangerous, it is the easiest way to do it. The tongs just don't quite cut it. And once those are flipped, perfect. They fit a little easier on the pan. Turn down the heat again. We're about most the way to low. And I'm going to start layering some of the longer cooking plants. So the dandelion, and that'll help make a crust on the bottom with the potatoes. Vitamin C and D. Sneak in extra nutrients into all of your loved ones' meals and your own. Next, I'm going to go in with just a little bit of the chamomile flowers. And I found it's really nice, especially since a lot of people drink caffeine as a way to start their day. Using nervines or mild sedatives like this chickweed, it actually sets up the day in a more calm way. So instead of like a frantic, frenetic type energy, we get to go into the day a little more rested, a little more calm. And so these are the beautiful thyme flowers from my garden that I got today. And they're beautiful flowers. I couldn't resist. So although this doesn't grow wild, I am going to strip all these off of the woody stem and add them in because thyme is delicious. And we also want to talk about plants you can grow in your yard. This thyme was not even supposed to be a perennial. It was supposed to be an annual, even though in certain climates they are perennials. But the way my raised beds are set up, these overwintered really well. So I have an even bigger patch this year. So I'm gonna put some more of those flowers in, really use the plants as the seasoning as opposed to dried seasonings as seasoning. So let me see, I have my yarrow here. That's the last little wild herb I'm going to do. And you're gonna see, this is a serving for 4 people. I'm going to take half of this head and I'm just going to take the white flower. So I took half of this head and I just got the white flowers. I'm going to use my palm to bruise it and then sprinkle that on top of those potatoes. It's already looking so pretty. I see the flowers flecked throughout. And then I'm going to add the chives after on top and the chive flour on top. We've got some kelp and sea salt mixture here that I'm going to season it with. And this is just, it's dried powdered kelp and mixed with equal parts pink Himalayan sea salt. So I'm going to use very, very little. And actually, I like to use the palm of my hand. And this way you don't over salt. I just take a pinch and then evenly spread it across the top. And then I am going to go ahead and crack some of these eggs on top. I like to keep them whole when I can, but that doesn't always happen. The sizzle is a good sign. Pan is still nice and hot. Perfect. Right now I just have 4, but I'm actually gonna slide them around and you can see how it's creating an edge with the yolk and the potatoes around the edge. It's kind of sealing it in. And I want the egg to cover all the plant matter. And then I'm going to add a little bit more thyme just right on top of all of the yolks, because the yolks are very high in fats, good fats, good for our brain, and the thyme offsets that really nicely. I'm also going to garnish with some chive flour. It's not in its prime, it's slightly dried, but that's okay. We use a lot of dried spices, but this is sun-dried. So we get to sprinkle some of these sun-dried, beautiful purple chives on top of these golden yolks. There. Just going to use them all. And then next stop is our chickweed. Just going to cover the chickweed. I like to try to avoid the yolks so that when it's presented, it's just so much prettier. It's like they're kind of peeping out through the green. As wonderful as pineapple wheat is, it can be strong in recipes. So that's why I just chose the tops. And I'm actually going to save these for a salad later, mixed in with a lot of different greens. Last step are these chives, but as the greens cook, I'm just going to cover it and then start cutting my chives. So I like them nice and small. Take extra care in protecting our plant resources, either replanting the seeds that we harvest from the flowers, or just really sustainable harvesting practices. You know, you don't have to pick everything, and you really shouldn't, so that it has an opportunity to come back. And another big thing that I've seen a couple people do even recently in one of my classes, where they went to pick the plant, grabbed it, and then just pulled, and that pulled the root system out. We want to keep the root system in, especially for our perennial plants, because we want it to keep coming back every year. But you want to keep the root in for your annual plants, even the wild annuals, because it allows for them to keep growing through the season. And they might even come to another flower head, which, hey, bonus, right? So I'm not going to use all these chives because it would be a lot. So I'm using about half of that big giant bunch I had. This off to the side. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything. And I think that's it. I'm going to cover it a little bit more. And the goal here is to have the crispy potatoes, which we flipped, so they're going to be crisp on both sides, but then also to create a barrier from the cast iron to the egg to prevent any slippage, so you can actually just kind of transfer it to a pie dish, serve it as an upside down like potato quiche of sorts. But with the eggs, it coaches them by trapping the moisture in the skillet. And they, I really like soft boiled eggs, or I like poached eggs. So the yolk can be as thin as you'd like. Got that nice sizzle going. So you can see the whites are cooked. They're solid and crispy around the edges. The yolk is just exactly how I like it. So I'm going to actually turn it off all the way. So now we get to plate this beautiful, beautiful dish. I'm going to take one of my fireweed fronds, and some bugs got to the lower leaves, so I removed those and washed all of the wonderful plants we have here today. So we can add both the greens and the flowers, and I'm just going to place it on top. It's all done. Flowers get added. So let me grab a plate. I'm going to cut it down the middle through the two eggs. And you can feel the crust of the potato just sliding right off. Oh yeah, look at that. That to me is a perfect potato. I'm very happy. I'll do one egg at a time so I don't break the yolk. And everything should just slide right out of this pan. So I've got more fireweed, especially if you're entertaining any out-of-state guests. It's really nice to, you know, show the beauty that Alaska has to offer, not only in our landscapes, and of course the flowers and plants contribute to those landscapes, but also the appreciation of the abundance here. And how we really can live off the land in a way that gives back to nature. It's really important. So this is how I'm going to top it all off. This is a homemade ferment of fireweed greens, nettle leaves, devil's club bud, and a little bit of onion, and that's it. So every little egg dollop should have a little bit of that sour to balance and help her produce bile so that they can, and all these good enzymes and bacteria that live in these live ferments, to provide gut health and support for their gut. So put a couple sprigs here. This is our beautiful plate of 4 eggs, and it was actually just 2 small russet potatoes. There's the chickweed flowers off to the side. We've got this beautiful bough of fireweed in the center, and then, you know, the fireweed leaf. And really the fun for me is making it, but then the cherry on top is decorating it with all these beautiful plants. And it's sure to wow anybody, any guests. They're just like, oh, whoa, that's the prettiest thing I've ever seen. So thank you everyone for attending. You know, it's the middle of your day, and I really appreciate you taking the time to spend some time in my kitchen.